major Western central banks reset the current financial system and world order if in order to prevent some kind of catastrophe, if there was, let's say, a run on the gold or some other event which was threatening the current fractional reserve system, basically, which it is.
Well, there's a paper, study written by a Scottish economist named Peter Millar. This is on Goddard's internet site. There's a link to it on our homepage. Miller notes that governments long have used gold revaluation to devalue their currencies, to devalue debt, and to prevent interest on debt from going exponential and consuming the real productive economy, because in an interest system, interest on interest on interest, eventually does go exponential. The U.S. government devalued the dollar in 1933 and 1934, and effectively in 1971 as well, by letting the gold price go, and that devalued the currency. It devalued debts as well. There is increasing discussion, speculation that there's too much debt in the world, that it has to be devalued. There's talk about an old-fashioned jubilee where debts are forgiven. I don't think they'll ever do that, but a devaluation of currencies is effectively a jubilee. It devalues debts, makes them easier to pay. You could devalue the dollar by revaluing gold upward, or you could make gold a component of a new international currency, a component of the International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights. The SDR could be recomposed not only of the major currencies, but gold could be made a major part of the SDR at a much higher price, and that would devalue all the currencies. Central banks often have used gold when they want to devalue. They will, for probably most of the time, they will be trying to defend the value of their currencies to prevent a flight out of their currencies and a crash in their government bond prices and a crash in their stock markets. But at certain times when they need to devalue because debt is getting the best of them, they use gold to do that. The United States did that in 1933 and 1934. It devalued the dollar by, I think, at least a third. Other countries have done the same thing as well. We very possibly are coming upon a point where central bank consensus will be to devalue their currencies and devalue debt, and they will use gold to do it. Let me just take a sip here.
Sure.
The U.S. economists Paul Brodsky and Lee Quaintance 8 years ago wrote a paper, which is on Goddard's internet site, in which they hypothesized that the real objective of the major central banks, and this was 8 years ago, was not to keep suppressing the gold price forever, as cranks and whack jobs like Goddard were saying. But Brodsky and Quaintance said that their real objective was to redistribute the world's gold reserves among central banks in preparation for an inevitable devaluation of the world reserve currency, the dollar, and to redistribute the gold reserves in favor of those countries that had built up too many dollars in their foreign exchange reserves, so that upon a devaluation of the dollar, these countries with too many dollars in their foreign exchange accounts would lose on the dollar, but they would regain what they had lost with this upward revaluation of gold, so that they would be made whole. That gold was going to be redistributed around the world as a hedge for governments against dollar devaluation. I think Brodsky and Quaintance's hypothesis is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, I mean, it seems logical. It's the same way an investor would use gold. What do you think the implications of a reevaluation of the price of gold by central banks would be for people who own gold right now, including any like